Far too often in my 25 years of birding and leading birding groups, I have had participants that show up on a birding tour with binoculars that are not suitable for birding, or participants that show up to a night walk and they don't have a flashlight. Participants that pay extra in order to bring a spotting scope all the way from home. They have to pay extra to the airlines because they exceed the weight limit of their suitcases and never use them. Camera equipment is also a bit tricky to pack if you don't know what to expect at your destination. So this video deals with what to expect in Costa Rica and what are the characteristics that your equipment should have in order to get the best out of your wildlife observation tour. This is Eric Castro. Welcome to my channel. So on what to expect in Costa Rica, we have to start by talking about the weather conditions. Okay, Costa Rica tends to be very rainy. That doesn't mean that it rains constantly day and night, but it does rain quite often, and it rains heavily sometimes. So having averages rainfall of 120, 150 inches of rain per year is quite common in most places in Costa Rica. So it is very important that your equipment is waterproof, and if it is not, that you have something to protect that equipment so it doesn't get ruined. So that's factor number one. Factor number two is related with it, and it has to do with the high humidity. So after being a day out of either photographing or observing wildlife, your equipment is going to get damp, and it is really important that at the end of the day you deal with that humidity. Okay, some towels might help with it, but a small dehumidifier is going to do wonders to your equipment in order to keep it safe. Also, it's going to be hot. Average temperature can go from 75 all the way up to a little over 100. Depends on where you are in Costa Rica. So that is not going to affect your equipment so much, but it is going to affect you, and it's going to limit the amount of time that you're going to be out there observing wildlife or taking pictures of that wildlife. So it is really important that you prepare yourself by having enough water with you, by having the right type of clothing and footwear, and maybe even a hat in order to deal with that and be comfortable when you're out there in the field observing wildlife. One of the suggestions I often offer to my groups when I notice that they have cameras and binoculars and spotting scopes, optical equipment, is that whenever we stay at an accommodation that provides air conditioning, to keep their equipment out of the air conditioning room. Oftentimes that is going to mean the bathroom. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit awkward, but the problem is that if you step out of the room with that equipment quite cold into the hot, humid environment to photograph a bird or to observe a monkey that just showed up, your equipment is going to fog out almost immediately. So in order to avoid those situations and having to wait from half an hour to 45 minutes for that equipment to go back to ambient temperature, then that is my suggestion. So that's one of the things that we also have to take into consideration, besides the fact that having your equipment, your electronics in air conditioning and bringing that directly out into the ambient temperature with high humidity could definitely damage that equipment. In my opinion, the most important piece of equipment that you should bring for a wildlife tour is binoculars. Binoculars are going to make a huge difference between being able to enjoy that monkey that is doing its acrobatics up at the top of a tree, or a sloth that is moving slowly, coming down through the foliage, also up in a tree, or simply not. When it comes to a monkey that moves around a lot, it is an animal that regardless the level of skill of your tour guide with a spotting scope, the monkey may not sit there long enough for the guide to be able to set it up in the scope for you to see. So binoculars will make a big difference. Now, oftentimes people bring binoculars that are way too small and not powerful enough for the observation of wildlife. Maybe a pair of binoculars that were a gift, but that gift was meant to be used in a museum or in a theater. So those binoculars are not good for wildlife observations. Or the opposite, binoculars that are just way too big and too heavy, and at the end of the day your neck is in real pain. So those binoculars are not good for this type of tours. So binoculars should be powerful enough so that you can really get a good view of the wildlife in any of your tours, but at the same time they should be light enough so that you can carry them all day, every day, without really getting in your way. Now, in order to understand binoculars, we're gonna get a little bit technical in a moment, but I want to point out over here in these binoculars, I hope you can see that, it says 8 by 32, and those two numbers are very important. 8 is the magnification, and basically 32 is the diameter of this lens over here. Okay, that is going to limit the amount of light that comes into the spotting or into the binoculars and goes right into your eye. This is really important in Costa Rica because happens that our forests tend to be very dark. So forests, when you're observing wildlife in the forest interior, you want binoculars to be very powerful at bringing in light. Okay, so in terms of magnification, that is the amount of times that that binocular or optical equipment is going to bring in the subject, the animal or bird or plant or flower that you are looking at. Okay, so 8 times or 10 times or 12 times. Now in Costa Rica, what I recommend is 8. 8 times is enough. 10, it's okay. 12, definitely not. 12 time magnification binoculars is going to be good if you are birding or if you are observing wildlife in a very open area where things or animals tend to be far away. So you want to have that extra magnification. But otherwise, the ideal number, in my opinion, and this is very personal, is 8. Why 8? Because that magnification number is also going to affect the depth of field. Okay, and the depth of field is basically the amount of area from the observer or the binoculars to the subject, and a little bit beyond that, that is going to be in focus. Okay, just like a camera, binoculars work the same way. There is going to be a distance within a certain reach that subjects are going to be in focus. If you have a 10 time magnification binocular, is going to make that area a little bit narrower. And once again, in Costa Rica, our forests are very dense, very dark, with lots of layers of vegetation, and the wider the field, the depth of field, the better, or the easier and the faster that you're going to be able to find whatever it is that you're trying to look at through your binoculars. So I'm going to have some images here because I know it's a little bit technical and a little bit confusing. So here, with more magnification, a narrower depth of field. So only the first take is in focus. And over here, less magnification, but a wider depth of field. Spotting scopes, my friends, are also going to allow you to get a lot closer and get much better views of the wildlife. And if you are into birding, they are definitely a must, because most of the birds that we observe during a tour are going to be at a distance. They're not going to be that close, and many of them are very small, and the characteristics that we want to observe on them in order to be able to identify them are quite small. So this equipment is really important, but it also takes a lot of space. So basically what I recommend is, if you already sign up for a bird watching tour, then you want to contact the company, the local company, and make sure that the guide that is going to be leading your tour has a spotting scope, and maybe even ask what type of spotting scope your guide is going to have. That way you can leave your spotting scope in the safety of your home, and you don't have to bring it along. The reason is that our trails, or most of the places where we bird, the trails tend to be very narrow, and one scope is usually enough. However, if you are coming to Costa Rica or elsewhere and you're going to be birding by yourself, then you definitely want to have a spotting scope so you can get up close to those animals that are a little bit shy and are going to keep their distance from you. So, just like with binoculars, there are a couple of numbers with spotting scopes. The body of the spotting scope is, they come in numbers such as 65, 70, 80, 85, and once again, that is the diameter of the objective lens, the far end of the objective lens on your spotting scope, and that is going to allow the light to come in. Okay, so that is a very important number. The other one is, once again, the magnification of the eyepiece. And some eyepieces, just like this one here, they have a zoom. In this case, it goes from 20 to 60, and you're going to find eyepieces that go from 45 or from 20 to 45, 20 to 65, 15 to 65. So there are different combinations, but it is also really important to find out, if you are buying one, the types of coatings and how many coatings, and if it's waterproof, and so on and so forth. The other very important piece of equipment that goes along with a spotting scope is the tripod. And tripods should not be too heavy, once again, because you're going to be carrying that on your shoulder all day long. But also they should not be too light. Tripod that is too light is not going to provide the right base, the right stability for your spotting scope in a windy situation. And it could be a bit risky if you are in a windy situation and your tripod is not strong enough or heavy enough, because the wind might just tumble the whole thing down, and a spotting scope can go for $3,000, $4,000 nowadays. So it's a very expensive piece of equipment that you definitely want to protect from falling. Now, if you found out that your guide is going to have a spotting scope and you decide not to bring yours, okay, then what you do want to find out as soon as you arrive is how to operate the spotting scope of your guide. And of course, you're going to have to ask permission to your guide to see if he is okay with you handling his spotting scope. Most of the time that will be the case. But you do want to find out where the focus is, where the zoom is, how to pan, what controls the panning, what controls the tilting on the scope, or the tripod, in this case, the tripod head of the telescope your guide has. So those are also very important things to remember in order to get the best out of such a wonderful piece of equipment. Another item that should always be in your suitcase when you're traveling in order to observe wildlife is a flashlight or torch if you're watching this video from the UK. A flashlight is really important for several reasons. One of the most important ones is that, at least in Costa Rica, at about 5:45, between 5:45 and 6, it gets pitch black outside. So you do need a flashlight in most lodges because there's not very good lighting. So you want to lead your path from your cabin to the dining room and back. But oftentimes these lodges and these cabins are surrounded by nature, surrounded by forests, beautiful gardens, and full of wildlife, from insects to very colorful spiders to snakes, owls, you name it. So there are lots of different animals that you could observe just on a short walk from your restaurant to your cabin. So it doesn't have to be just a formal night walk with your guide that a situation comes up in which you are going to need that flashlight, but just a simple wander during the nighttime around your cabin. that you might encounter really colorful frogs, such as the red-eyed tree frog, that you don't want to miss, and you definitely need a flashlight to be able to observe and admire. Now, there are many different types of flashlights. What I recommend is a flashlight that you can just charge overnight and it will last a long time. One that you can just put in your pocket and keep with you day and night, because even during the daytime sometimes you're walking on a trail and the conditions are a bit dark and you find something and you need some extra light in order to be able to observe it. So something small, light, and powerful. It needs to have good output power or light in order to for you to be able to take advantage of it. Oftentimes people bring spotlights, but spotlights are too bulky. The batteries don't last very long oftentimes, and they're just hard to carry. So a small, powerful flashlight that lasts a long time, or whose battery lasts a long time, it's the ideal flashlight or torch to bring along. Nowadays there are many shops that will offer like tactical equipment, and you can get some really good tactical flashlights that will have all of those characteristics and even more. So once again, that's another great item to have in your or in any trip that focuses on wildlife observation. When it comes to packing your photographic equipment, the most important thing that you have to take into consideration is what is going to be the main focus of your photography. If you're going to be photographing birds, then you want to definitely pack your telephoto lens, the teleconverters, but if you're going to do a little bit of everything, then that's when it gets a little bit more complicated, because you do have to bring quite a bit of equipment. So knowing what sort of photography you're going to be doing is the step number one to decide what equipment to pack. So specifically for a trip to Costa Rica, I would recommend, if you're going to do a little bit of everything, I would recommend 3 lenses basically. For bird photography, a telephoto lens, 300 with a teleconverter, 400 or 500 even better, a macro lens. It's also important if you're going to do photography of snakes, of frogs, of small flowers, so anything that is macro or considered macro photography, and then a wide-angle lens for landscapes. So those 3 lenses will give you a very good chance to photograph just about anything interesting in Costa Rica. All of these lenses should be bright lenses, so lenses that will allow you to photograph in very poor light conditions. Another important item is a very good stable tripod that you're going to be using in situations such as when you're photographing birds from lookout or from a hide when you're doing macro photography or when you're doing landscape photography. In those situations, you will want to have a steady tripod with you. But if you're going to be doing photography just along the trail and you're going to be carrying your camera, then a good strap system that will keep the camera safe and not getting in your way will also be important to have. Well, my dear friends, if you found this information useful, and I truly hope you have, please share with others, click on the like button, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that we can continue sharing tips like this and information about Costa Rica, so you can enjoy your future travels to Costa Rica. Thank you.